Hi there, everyone on Torah Anytime. I'm super mega excited today because we're going to start a new series on Judaism and vegetarianism. And I'm here with my first cousin, Michael Kalati, who is going to help us through this. He's going to give his talk about his research that he's done. I want to preface this by saying that Michael has exhaustively gone through the source material here. He's actually put off our recording for a couple of weeks because he was unsatisfied that he didn't have enough source material, and his research here is simply exhaustive. I mean, it's going to be impossible to do this in one go. We're going to do this over a few sessions, but I also want to give a little bit of a caveat and say that we are presenting these opinions here. I mean, everything has a source. Nothing is like what we've done off our own back, or Michael has done off his own back. But these are all ideas which I personally am not giving an endorsement. These are ideas that it's up to you, the listener, to make up your own mind. So based on the fact that the points here are going to be substantiated, you'll hear mention of the Rambam, you'll hear mention of Shimshon Afor Hirsch, you'll hear mention of Kohelet and Mishlei, other sources, etc. And these are all very well researched, so you can make up your own mind. If you have any questions on this, I'm very happy to take questions. If you want to send me an email, rabbikalati@gmail.com, and I will pass them on to Michael, and we'll see if we can answer them. And without any further ado, I'm going to pass you over to Michael Kalati. Here we go.
Thank you, Rabbi Mashiach. Very kind introduction. Thank you for the opportunity to perhaps relay some of my thoughts about vegetarianism and how it relates to Judaism, and more importantly, the sources that I found very interesting and very thought-provoking and convincing when I was researching the subject. I was taken aback actually at the concept of a lot of the Jewish figures who were chosen by Hashem because of their kindness to animals. I thought that was extremely thought-provoking. That's really, that's a point I'd like to come to a little bit later. But what I wanted to talk about in the beginning were a few Jewish mandates that seem to support the idea of vegetarianism as a way of life. In today's world, we're finding that there's a lot of suffering, and you see the onset of pandemics that didn't exist before, and they seem to have come about from the food chain and our misuse of certain types of food and a consequence of the misuse. I'd like to perhaps describe a few aspects of Jewish mandates like Pekuach Nefesh and tza'ar Balei Chayim, maybe 5 or 6 different mandates. If you bear with me, I'd like to also give the sources that I think is very important. I was quite surprised at the people that were mentioned, their views that are not really widely recognized or acknowledged. So basically, the first one I'd like to start with is Pekuach Nefesh, because, we have to look after our bodies. Our bodies are basically vehicles for the soul. And if you imagine, Hashem kind of gives us a car to carry our spirit, our souls, and we have to ultimately look after that car. We can't, and the more efficient your body is, the more your soul is at peace. The more your body suffers, the more your soul will suffer. So I think it's important to look after your body, and I think it's people don't realize the importance of that. So basically, a few sources I'd like to mention. For example, there's a quote from Devarim, chapter 4, pasuk 15, "V'nishmartem meod lenafshotechem," which means be extremely protective of your lives. which is almost like
It's midoraita. You can't argue with that.
Exactly, yeah. A few other people, Rambam, in Mishnah Torah, Hilchot Deot, chapter 4, Pasuk 1, he mentions, and I quote, "Since maintaining a healthy and sound body is among the ways of God, for one cannot understand or have any knowledge of the Creator if one is ill. Therefore, one must avoid that which harms the body and accustom oneself to that which is helpful and helps the body become stronger." Now, Rambam was a very famous physician as well. He was apparently the chief physician to Saladin. And there's a famous story of Saladin who was never ill under Rambam's care. Oh. And he asked Rambam one day, "How do I know how good a physician you are? Because I've never been ill." And he says, that proves how good I am. The prevention is better than the cure. Absolutely. The fact that you haven't been ill is better always to prevent. So if you can adjust your diet and keep to healthy habits, this will prevent any illnesses coming your way, or it can be the best thing you can do. There's also Rav Shimshon Raphael Hirsch, who also, if I may quote him, he says, "You may not in any way weaken your health or shorten your life. Only if the body is healthy is it an efficient instrument for the spirit's activity. Therefore, you should avoid everything which might possibly injure your health. And the law asks you to be even more circumspect in avoiding danger to life and limb than in the avoidance of other transgressions." There is a more contemporary Rabbi Alfred Cohen, who says, "Following the many precedents prescribed in the Code of Jewish Law, we would have little difficulty in arriving to the conclusion that, if indeed eating meat is injurious to one's health, it is not only permissible but possibly even mandatory that we reduce our ingestion of an unhealthful product to the minimum level." Rabbi Rosen mentions, "As it is halachically prohibited to harm oneself, as a healthy, nutritious vegetarian alternatives are easily available, meat consumption has become halachically unjustifiable." Those are some of the quotes that I found very interesting. Here are some just facts relating to health realities and animal-based diets. Epidemiological studies indicate that populations of countries where meat consumption is high, such as United States, Australia, Canada, have a much higher mortality rates from heart disease and different types of cancer, strokes, and other illnesses compared to countries where meat consumption is low. There was a study done by the American Dietetic Association in 1997 that stated scientific data suggests positive relationships between a vegetarian diet and a reduced risk for several chronic degenerative diseases and conditions, including obesity, coronary artery disease, hypertension, diabetes, and several types of cancer. Interestingly, there was a scientific study done by the American Medical Association which showed that severe heart problems normally treated by drugs and surgery can be reversed through a very low-fat vegetarian diet, exercise and stress reduction. Some experts believe that up to 95% of heart attacks could be prevented by such lifestyle changes. And Rav Mashiach, you hear about this people having heart bypasses, and basically over a course of a lifetime you can eat so much of this animal fat that you get this kind of plaquey, yellowy build-up in your arteries. You don't find that that sort of fat content in vegetables. So I mean, this is it's entirely avoidable. Once your heart is damaged, it's very hard to recover from that. So I think prevention, if you avoid building up plaquey, fatty deposits in your arteries, it should be something that should be encouraged. There in America, there was another study done that called Preventative Medicine, and it revealed that the annual medical costs in the US associated with diseases resulting from animal-centered diets are comparable to those associated with cigarette smoking. So, there's a huge strain on the health services, and it can be avoided. There was a massive study done in China, because in China they have a very different diet. They're almost lactose intolerant, and they don't suffer from osteoporosis and other fat-related problems. Cornell University did a study of the eating habits of 6,500 people in these various areas in China, and this was described by by famous New York Times medical editor, nutritional editor, as she described it, as the Grand Prix of epidemiology. And she states that even small intakes of animal products are associated with significant increases in chronic and degenerative diseases. Recent researchers linked osteoporosis to high animal protein diets. It's been found that high levels of animal protein in the diet cause large amounts of calcium to be removed from the bones and excreted. This is because when you provide your body with too much protein, we think that eating protein is good for the bones, but it's not necessarily that case. If you eat too much, your body has to excrete it, and one way it does it is that it takes it out with calcium. So your body actually removes calcium from your bones to deal with the animal protein, and people don't realize this. This is one of the major effects of a high animal protein diet.
So you're trying to say the calcium that when we were kids, they would tell us is being stripped from our bodies.
Yeah, exactly. To deal with the animal protein, the body has to remove what you think is being added.
Wow.
It's very important to understand that. Yeah. And also a very, very important thing is animals today, the carnivory trade, basically they use a lot of antibiotics. They feed antibiotics to the cows to keep them healthy, because they're penned in huge complexes of it's like warehouses of animals that are kept in, without moving, without fresh air. So they have to feed them with antibiotics to make sure they stay alive long enough to plump them up for slaughter. So, the antibiotics that are being fed to them are ending up in your body because you're eating their flesh. And when you use antibiotics in animal feed as well, it fuels the development of antibiotic-resistant germs that have the potential to devastate human health in the long term. So these are very important. Things. So that's basically on Pekuach Nefesh, on the mandate of Pekuach Nefesh. These are the few thoughts and sources that I think support the adoption of a vegetarian diet.